Welcome back. Last time, we covered Siberian entomologist Viktor Grebenikov's manned anti-gravity craft built entirely from cavity structures inside beetle elytra. No fuel, no circuits. After his death in 2001, Russian security services seized nearly all his original manuscripts, lab specimens and experimental blueprints, locking them away in classified archives. This is only the shallow public version of the story. If you read leaked private letters, censored cut chapters removed from his published book, My World, and anonymous witness statements from those who saw his experiments firsthand, you uncover a far eerier, chilling truth hidden from mainstream audiences. Most hobbyists wrongly believe the cavity structural effect only counteracts gravity, but Grebenikov's confidential notes carry a stark warning. These microscopic insect structures warp light, disrupt all electromagnetic equipment, distort local time flow, and leave irreversible long-term damage to living creatures. Mainstream academia dismisses every bizarre anomaly as static electricity or air current illusions. But sealed primary archives prove Grebenikov was not alone in witnessing these impossible events. Multiple scientists who joined his early experiments cut all contact with him and chose permanent silence. Several researchers' whereabouts remain unknown to this day. Today we dig deep into this heavily concealed secret, revealing the horrifying details erased from all public materials. Unrecorded human physiological side effects, unexplainable space-time oddities inside his lab, hidden clues linking beetle population decline to government control. The full story of forced book censorship, Grebenikov's growing terror in his later life, and the complete timeline of state surveillance and preemptive confiscation of his core research data. Nearly all online science videos only mention cameras breaking down near his levitation platform. Few viewers know strange phenomena started long before he built any manned craft. Even small tests with dozens of stacked beetle wings triggered consistent, inexplicable events. Grebenikov's handwritten lab logs record, once multi-layered elytra arrays formed a complete resonant cavity structure. A stable, anomalous field spread several meters outward from the device. First came overwhelming sensory distortion. Anyone stepping into the field tasted harsh metallic rust in their mouth, endured unending high-pitched tinnitus no ear protection could block, and saw tiny sourceless white specks flickering at the edge of their vision. Their skin developed persistent numb electric stinging. These sensations had no link to static charge. Even after fully shielding the lab from static and sealing all airflow, the strange field effects persisted without change. Second, every timekeeping device malfunctioned entirely. Mechanical watches randomly sped up, slowed, or froze. Quartz digital timers skipped numbers and glitched for no electronic reason. He ran a controlled test. Two perfectly synchronized precision clocks, one placed inside the field, the other far outside. After just 2 hours, a 7-minute time gap appeared between the identical timepieces. Most disturbing of all was spatial displacement of physical objects. Small lightweight items were not merely repelled, they would vanish entirely for several seconds before reappearing in a separate spot within the field. Grebenikov highlighted this line in bold handwriting. This is not physical movement. Objects briefly slip out of our three-dimensional perceptual space. A widely overlooked clue rewrites his discovery timeline. He first encountered cavity resonance not in 1988 while studying beetles under a microscope. As early as 1944, young Grebenikov experienced identical vertigo, partial weightlessness, metallic oral taste, and visual distortion while surveying Siberian grasslands near a massive underground wild beehive colony. This leads to a terrifying conclusion. Ordered holobiological cavity shapes, honeycombs, beetle wing casings, and other insect structures naturally generate this unrecognized, resonant vacuum force field. Insect flight relies on far more than aerodynamic lift. For hundreds of millions of years, insects have instinctively harnessed planetary space-time resonance mainstream human science refuses to acknowledge. As experiments advanced, Grebenikov slowly realized the severe risks of the field. His later lab journal handwriting grew messy and panicked, filled with clear signs of fear. He discovered prolonged exposure to the cavity field triggered fragmented recurring nightmares, gradual memory loss, and frequent debilitating balance disorders. He strictly limited each experimental session's length, refusing to stay above the elytra array for extended periods. He once invited 2 trusted colleagues from a local biological institute to witness the phenomena. After experiencing the bizarre sensory anomalies themselves, the 2 scientists only joined 3 tests before refusing to enter the lab ever again. Leaked anonymous letters reveal state authorities summoned both researchers for formal questioning shortly afterward, issuing a strict warning to abandon all unsanctioned civilian gravitational experiments. The official printed edition of Grebenikov's book, My World, intentionally erased extensive, terrifying descriptions of his high-altitude night flights. Unedited leaked original drafts restore countless horrifying details removed from public release. Grebennikov repeatedly piloted his silent levitation craft on long-distance journeys across Siberian wilderness after dark. Beyond silent high-speed travel, zero ground shadow, and full glowing energy halo encapsulation, three rarely documented phenomena accompanied every flight. First, the high-altitude cavity field actively attracted swarms of nocturnal insects. Masses of moths and flying bugs gathered around the craft's glowing halo, circling endlessly without drifting away. Grebennikov theorized insects naturally sense space-time distortion fields, instinctively drawn to force fields formed by matching biological cavity structures. Second, during long-distance flights, he repeatedly witnessed overlapping layered landscapes within his vision. The present scenery overlaid faint blurred imagery of the same terrain captured hours earlier, creating a double vision effect. He could never confirm if the visual distortion stemmed from permanent sensory damage or temporary overlapping of separate temporal layers in local space-time. Third, weather directly altered the craft's functional efficiency. On clear, dry days, gravitational shielding remained stable. During rainy or high humidity weather, lifting power dropped drastically. Takeoff was nearly impossible in winter, not purely due to low temperatures, but because natural nanoscale crystalline cavity structures inside cold season beetle elytra lost resonant activity. One of his most unsettling flight records describes recurring distant aerial sightings. Mid-flight, he occasionally spotted a second identical pale white glowing halo floating far off in the night sky, moving silently through the atmosphere, just like his own craft. He never dared fly close to the mysterious light. Grebennikov wrote in his manuscripts, "I begin to suspect I am not the only person to have mastered this technology." We also clarify a rarely discussed archival contradiction online. Why did he consistently refuse to release complete, raw flight camera footage? The mainstream explanation claims a cavity force field scrambles camera sensors, but deleted manuscript segments reveal a deeper fear. He worried photographic negatives would capture visible space-time distortion traces alongside footage of the levitation platform itself. If unredacted imagery leaked to the public, full-scale official state intervention into his research would be inevitable. Anticipating authorities would eventually target his research, Grebennikov built protective safeguards for his core findings. He split all critical experimental parameters across dozens of separate notebooks, storing each volume in geographically isolated locations to prevent full confiscation of all data in a single raid. In 1996, Grebennikov finalized his full research parameters across dozens of separate e-notebooks. Cent Ori NG, EHVOLM, in GeoGeog are ethically isolated. Allocation is to prevent the full confiscation of all data in a single detailed elytra stacking schematic blueprints, over 100 high-resolution microscopic specimen photos, and complete chronological flight route records for every levitation trip he piloted. Immediately after the publishing house submitted his unredacted full manuscript for internal preliminary review, state regulators stepped in to enforce mandatory heavy editorial cuts. The censored official edition released to the public in 1997 featured massive wholesale deletions of critical research content. Over 300 original specimen photographs were permanently removed without replacement. All precise structural dimension measurements, elytra layered stacking angles, and resonant field activation parameter values were fully erased from every technical diagram. Entire full-page sections detailing space-time distortion effects, long-term physiological harm to human test subjects, and night flight sightings of unidentified glowing aerial halos were cut entirely from printed text. All descriptions of the anti-gravity levitation platform retained within the published book were rewritten into vague, generalized language, deliberately downplaying the device's functional viability to leave readers with the false impression the craft existed solely as fictional literary fantasy. Grebennikov clashed violently with publishing house editors over the mandatory censorship, yet possessed no legal recourse to reverse the mass deletion of his research content. He originally planned to file a comprehensive complete patent application alongside the book's release. Back in 1992, his formal patent submission detailing the cavity biological structure anti-gravity apparatus was summarily rejected by state patent authorities. The official rejection document contained only an extremely brief single-sentence ruling. Application will not be subjected to full review and deliberation. No experimental flaws, contradictory scientific data, or technical counterarguments were listed to justify the blanket dismissal of his invention patent. Hundreds of civilian independent researchers maintained that state security organs began continuously monitoring every stage of Grebennikov's research progress as early as the start of the 1990s. The authorities had no desire to allow this groundbreaking bionic gravitational manipulation technology to spread freely among the civilian public, yet they avoided immediate arrest or full confiscation of his experimental hardware, instead opting for long-term passive surveillance to fully document every experimental protocol and design iteration he developed. State officials adopted a gradual containment strategy. No arrests, no revocation of his personal freedom. Yet every legitimate formal scientific research channel was severed. All academic publishing pathways blocked, and strict content control enforced over every published work referencing his discoveries. Every potential channel for the technology's outward civilian dissemination was slowly restricted and sealed off, one by one. A confidential civilian investigative archive circulating exclusively among Russian bionics enthusiasts puts forward a deeply disturbing logical inference. Grebennikov repeatedly emphasized a critical caveat. Not all beetle wing casings are capable of generating the cavity structural effect. Only wild native Siberian jewel beetle specimens grown to maturity during seasonal windows with precise temperature and humidity ranges feature the flawless nanoscale pyramid cavity arrays required to activate full gravitational shielding. Captive bred beetles, or specimens captured from southern geographic regions of Russia, bear microscopically subtle structural defects within their chitin electra, rendering them entirely incapable of generating a functional anti-gravity force field. Within barely a decade after Grebennikov launched his large-scale wild beetle specimen collection expeditions, the native Siberian jewel beetle population underwent an abrupt catastrophic collapse. To this day, locating intact wild elytra specimens of sufficient quality to generate the resonant cavity effect has become extraordinarily difficult for civilian experimenters. Two conflicting, competing hypotheses exist to explain the species' rapid population decline. The first is a purely natural ecological theory. Unregulated mass harvesting by Grebennikov and other amateur collectors decimated the wild beetle population, compounded by shifting global climate patterns and shrinking native steppe habitat ranges, leading to natural population deterioration over time. The second hypothesis carries heavy conspiratorial undertones. If state authorities had already identified this specific jewel beetle species as possessing extremely high strategic military value, they may have deliberately restricted wild native beetle population numbers to monopolize all viable biological raw specimens for state-controlled research facilities. If viable wild elytra specimens become nearly impossible to source out in the wilderness, no independent civilian researcher anywhere on the planet will ever be capable of replicating the functional manned levitation platform. The technology becomes inherently locked away, with only state-sanctioned research institutions retaining exclusive access to controlled captive beetle breeding programs. We possess no definitive, conclusive evidence to confirm or deny either hypothesis. Yet one objective, undeniable fact cannot be ignored. Every modern civilian attempting to replicate Grebennikov's levitation craft now struggles to source natural wild beetle specimens matching the exact quality Grebennikov utilized in his original experiments 4 decades ago. This unspoken hidden barrier remains the single primary reason no independent civilian researcher has successfully recreated a fully functional manned anti-gravity levitation craft over the past 40 years. We must also highlight one lesser-known archival detail. Immediately following Grebennikov's death, the vast majority of his top-tier, high-quality wild beetle specimen collection, housed within his personal museum, vanished under unexplained circumstances. All publicly displayed museum exhibits put on view for visitors after his passing consist solely of low-quality, replicated imitation beetle shell casts that possess zero functional experimental value for activating the cavity structural effect. In the spring of 2001, Viktor Stepanovich Grebennikov passed away suddenly at the age of 74. Official public death records list natural illness as the sole cause of his death. Within merely several days following the conclusion of his funeral services, law enforcement agents conducted an exhaustive full search of both his private residential home and his personal entomology museum. Partially leaked internal government documents contain a detailed inventory of all items seized during the raid. Every volume of his raw, unedited experimental lab journals, all unpublished handwritten research manuscripts, complete hand-drawn schematic blueprints for the levitation platform, all remaining stock of functional wild beetle elytra, raw material, every piece of early experimental testing hardware, and all microscopic specimens photographic negatives captured during his field research. While the primary frame structure of the original manned levitation platform was retained for public museum display, the single most critical core component, the base assembly fitted with stacked beetle elytra resonant arrays, disappeared completely and has never been placed on public exhibition to this day. In short, the levitation craft on display for tourists is nothing more than an empty, non-functional shell stripped of its vital core technology. Many viewers are left asking a straightforward question. If mainstream academic science has unanimously dismissed Grebennikov's entire body of research as pure fantasy, nothing more than a wooden hobbyist toy built by a pseudoscience enthusiast, why would state authorities deploy full-scale official law enforcement resources to seize and archive every single original primary source experimental record he created? If his research were nothing but baseless, absurd speculation, the most logical official response would be to allow his manuscripts and blueprints to circulate freely among the public, letting amateur enthusiasts attempt replication and independently disprove his claims through hands-on testing. The only plausible rationale for mass confiscation, centralized archiving, and permanent classified sealing of his original research materials is that the raw primary data contains revolutionary frontier physical science insights that state authorities cannot risk spreading into uncontrolled civilian hands. After the law enforcement raid concluded, Grebenikov's surviving body of research materials was split into separate classified archival storage groups. A small subset of low-sensitivity documents was transferred to standard public museum archives with limited controlled public viewing access. All core flight log records and experimental data documenting space-time distortion field effects were labeled with top-secret, restricted viewing clearance ratings, permanently barring ordinary independent civilian researchers from ever requesting access to these files. To this day, countless replication demonstration videos and disc-shaped homemade levitation craft prototypes circulating across every major video platform rely exclusively on high-voltage electromagnetic coils and ion wind propulsion systems. These homemade builds only superficially mimic the conceptual appearance of Grebenikov's original platform, yet never touch upon the fundamental underlying physical logic of the cavity structural effect he uncovered through decades of insect field research. Human engineers can utilize precision machine tools to carve artificial structures matching the external geometric cavity shape of beetle elytra. Yet modern industrial manufacturing technology cannot replicate the naturally evolved biological physiological crystal lattices and nanometer-scale vacuum-resonant gaps embedded within the chitin of wild insect shells. The intricate cavity geometries evolved by millions of years of natural biological development surpass the absolute upper limits of precision manufacturing achievable by human industrial technology in the present era. Let us compile and connect every individual clue we have to uncover this deep dive. Preemptive long-term state surveillance commencing in the early 1990s, an unjustified blanket rejection of his anti-gravity apparatus patent application, forced mass editorial censorship of his published book, the unexplained disappearance of his irreplaceable core wild beetle specimens, the voluntary silence and severed contact of all participating early-stage research scientists, the immediate full confiscation of every primary source archive within days of his passing, and the continuous catastrophic decline of the sole wild beetle species capable of generating the cavity structural effect. Each isolated event, taken individually, could potentially be explained away with ordinary mundane reasoning. Yet, when strung together as a complete chronological chain of interconnected incidents, it becomes nearly impossible to avoid contemplating the far deeper geopolitical and scientific power games unfolding behind closed, classified government archive doors. One ultimate, unresolved central question hangs perpetually over this entire decades-long suppressed research story. If the cavity structural effect is a genuine, verifiable natural physical phenomenon, capable of enabling silent, fuel-free manned flight that completely disregards traditional aerodynamic principles, an invention powerful enough to upend global aerial combat, space exploration, and worldwide energy industry power dynamics, any nation or governing body that successfully masters this technology will inevitably exhaust every possible resource to restrict its uncontrolled civilian global dissemination. On the public surface, state institutions continuously propagate the official narrative labeling Grebenikov's discoveries as pseudoscience and fictional fantasy storytelling. Behind closed classified laboratory doors, state research divisions continuously dissect, analyze, and reverse engineer the microscopic biological cavity structures found within wild beetle elytra. Publicly, every official authority figure fully denies the validity of the cavity structural effect. Privately, endless government funding flows into classified research programs dedicated to unlocking its full technological potential. This dual approach represents the classic standardized playbook utilized by global state authorities to suppress disruptive paradigm-shifting black technology discoveries. In the final pages of his private late-life handwritten notes, Grebenikov penned a reflective concluding passage. Nature has hidden the key to gravitational manipulation within the tiniest insects on our planet. If humanity ever grasps hold of this key, the established global world order will be shaken to its foundations. Perhaps this ancient natural secret was never meant to be unlocked by humankind prematurely. Two opposing definitive conclusions remain perpetually unconfirmed to this day. Was Viktor Grebenikov merely deceived by observational optical illusions and physiological sensory anomalies, projecting fantastical anti-gravity flight capabilities onto ordinary insect shell structures as a product of his own vivid imagination? Or did he truly pierce through the boundaries of accepted mainstream human scientific understanding to touch raw, unacknowledged natural space-time laws, only for his complete groundbreaking discovery to be permanently locked away inside classified state archives? The final definitive answers likely rest sealed away within top-secret Russian government document vaults, forbidden from all public viewing access. For the foreseeable future, we will never be granted the opportunity to witness the unredacted full truth for ourselves. Thank you for watching, and we will see you all in our next deep dive investigative episode.